Hey guys, welcome back to The Uncommon Path. This is episode 9, and we're talking to Terence Lee. He's a 27-year-old entrepreneur based here in Singapore, and Terence shares his journey with us. It's super inspiring because he came out of this period of severe depression, dropping out of university, overcame those challenges, took control of his life, and built a super successful business from scratch, signing over 400 clients, generating over $1 million per year. The insights he shares about business, marketing, hiring is going to be super valuable to you guys. And without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Okay. Well, Terence, welcome to the show.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yep. So for those who don't know you, who are you and what have you built?
So my name's Terence. I'm 27 years old. I'm one of the co-founders of Statera Gym. Prior to this, I used to run a few small businesses. I did like online coaching while I was in uni. Prior to that, I used to run like a sneaker selling business and a t-shirt printing business. But, fitness is like my passion. So this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So was this something you've always dreamed of doing, like being an entrepreneur?
Not really entrepreneur. Like, I think I always wanted to be a personal trainer. Like, I think since I was 14, I kind of knew this is what I wanted. And then, obviously graduating from like high school, my parents wanted to go down the conventional route of studying business. I wanted to do sports science. Didn't happen. And then uni, I had a very bad breakup at the time. I was supposed to study like physio in Canada. And then because of the breakup, I kind of withdrew and applied for like a business course in Singapore. But obviously the relationship never lost. So I was kind of stuck, and my mom was like, okay, if you really want to chase your dream, like now's the time. Apply for physio, apply for Cairo, end up being in Cairo, and after one big round, I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of things didn't really go to plan, but you still kept like adapting and moving on. That's crazy. So why do you think why did you start getting into fitness?
For me, I used to live with my grandma and my uncle at the time. So he wakes up at like 4 a.m. every day to run and then to train. And then, by 6 a.m. he's done. I think I always looked up to my uncle as like the guy I want to be when I used to be growing up. So I think I kind of got exposure from training from there. And then from there, I started playing volleyball, and like strength training is just like a big part of it. So I just realized I really, really like training, like different aspects of fitness. And I think I've always been the guy who's like researching and finding out stuff and then kind of passing the information down to like my friends and my teammates. So I'm always kind of like the coach out of the group. So I think that just kind of like started that way and then just kept going from there. Yeah.
And so you went to study, you said you were doing business, but then you changed to doing
so my diploma, I did business, specializing like marketing and entrepreneurship.
So this was Poly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did marketing and entrepreneurship. And then, didn't do anything related to that.
Yeah. Do you think any of that was useful now that you are a business owner? Do you think there's any knowledge?
Not really. I think it's just really more about getting skin in the game and experiencing the stuff. No matter what you learn on theory, I think it's just like a very nice names to the terms of what you're doing, but the concepts, has to be practiced for you to truly understand how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you have studied it, or do you think you wish you did something different?
I think depending on how mature I am, I feel like at that point, being 16, you probably wouldn't know that you want to start something, but just having more time to figure yourself out kind of helps. Having the whole duration of the army where you don't know what to do and then you just keep trying things around. There's nothing at stake back then. There's no risk, If you make money, it's just good side cash. If you don't have extra, it's just part of a normal progression in terms of like that time and age group. So I would think I would still go to school, but maybe not go through like uni education.
Yeah, because I think it's quite a defining moment. In Singapore, they're like the UK. They put a lot of pressure on you trying to decide on exactly what you're going to study quite young.
Yeah.
In the US, you can do like liberal arts. You can get a breadth of topics, like try out different things well into university. But for people who are in Singapore and you straight away go from, finishing your GCSEs, then you can go into your
Poly.
Yeah. And then Poly, and then you're like, okay, what do I want to study? Do I have the grades for that? It can be a confusing time. And like, if someone was, interested in being an entrepreneur, is there a course, do you think, in poly or uni that they could take that would help them?
I don't really think so. I think Singapore's like education structure just doesn't set it up. If anything, I feel like a lot of times education kind of builds you to be like a good employee to work for someone because you're just so niche in one specialization. You don't really get to explore things out of that scope. Yeah. So it's tough. I think it's better off trying to find a side hustle, trying to work your way around like starting a business on your own.
Yeah. So you were selling t-shirts at one point?
Yeah. So we used to, kind of illegal, but not illegal. Like we used to order shoes from Taobao. And because like it was cheap, like we were selling it. At one point, our Instagram account had like 10K followers. So I think we're comfortably making like 5-6K a month each among the 3 partners. So I have 2 different partners. At 17, that's a lot of money.
And that was revenue.
Profit.
Wow.
Yeah, profit. And then we kind of did like custom t-shirt printing services for like poly, secondary school, but that's just like a small side cash kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we did it for like 2 years. I kind of fell out with one of the partners, and then like it was done from there.
Yeah, and damn, 17, you were already getting that experience.
17, 18, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. What made you want to start selling t-shirts?
It's more like like in poly, you kind of have those like camps before school starts, and then you kind of print like the t-shirts where they give out to everyone. So my partner then was in the basketball team, and one of the guys actually like produces the t-shirts, like owns the factories to do the stuff. So he kind of like, if you know anyone who wants to like print custom t-shirts, you can like reach out to me, or you can seal the deal and then you just make the commission in between. So back then it's like no risk, quite easy. You just go around, and if you know some people in the camps, you're just like, do you guys want to print t-shirts? And then we just went from there. Yeah, but not so much about like starting our own like clothing brand, but more like a middleman for like custom printing stuff.
Yeah. And was there a course you did? Like, I know that's something super common nowadays is like, buy this course to do this. Like, do you think people need to buy a course to start something?
Like what I just said, like, I think a lot of times you just got to jump in it, because I think there's a lot of obstacles with starting a business, not just like how to design, but just like logistics, like delivery of the products, all this kind of stuff. You don't just learn from how do I put a graphic on a t-shirt. It's like, how do I go to talking to people, selling the deal, managing the price, logistics, and all those kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think the knowledge that you gained from that, in a way, side hustle when you were selling the t-shirts and stuff, like, did you carry any of it to where you are now? Like, did you use anything you've learned?
I think it more changed my perception towards working hard and money. I feel like just in a very typical Singapore context, you go to corporate and you work really hard just for like a pay raise once every 2 years. But through like the deals and, like just selling shoes or like closing a t-shirt printing deal, you kind of understand that every sale led to X percentage in terms of increase in income. So you kind of see money in a different way, where I don't think about working hard to get like $200 raise per year. I think about, if I want to make extra $200, I just talk to this person, close this deal. If I want $2,000, talk to 10 people, and then understand that it's kind of like scalable, and you can earn a lot more with the same amount of work. So I think the motivation in terms of how I work hard is thinking about how do I drive a certain outcome rather than how much time I put into like the actual work.
Yeah. And going from, the traditional route, going to poly, going to uni, were your parents supportive? Were your friends supportive even of you, deciding to change paths and go and do your own thing?
With Statera, like before Statera, I kind of left school to be like a freelance PT, like freelance personal trainer. I think I had a lot of objections in terms of that.
You left university to go start it?
Yeah, so I was just like kind of doing it part-time because I was stranded from COVID. I couldn't re-enter Australia for school. So it's kind of a time where I cleared all the theoretical stuff in school, and then I just need to fly back to finish the practical before I can move on to my master's. So stuck for 1.5 years, just couldn't go back, didn't know what to do. So I just started doing like an online coaching. I was really doing online coaching on the side, so income was kind of stable. Started doing a bit more like face-to-face PT, and then, business kind of picked up. So there was always the struggle of like, should I leave school? Because at that point I was really making more than what a 2-year Cairo would make. But, everyone in Singapore just kind of talks about like, it's not stable. This is like a short-term thing. With PT, you make good money when you're young and you look good. What happens when you're 40? But fundamentally, I think about the part of like how you make money as a PT. I feel like you can, if you're good with money and you don't spend, you can make a lot more at the start, invest in money, and then when you're 40, you have a comfortable amount of money to live with, and you just do something else without worrying about like working a lot. But I think the whole time everyone just basically didn't agree. So I even did up like a PowerPoint slide with an Excel spreadsheet telling my mom, it's like, hey, if I go back to school, I have to spend like $250,000 to finish, and then I'll be in debt for like 9 years. And then how long does it take for me to kind of have like my own foundations financially for me to move on to buy a house, get married? So I kind of told her I'm going to do like a leave of absence for like a year. But at the point, I already decided to quit school. And I just kind of lied about the whole situation.
How many years did you have left?
I did. So it was a 3+2. So bachelor's 3 years and a master's 2. My bachelor's was extended to 4 years just because of the practical side of things. So I was 3.5 in. To most people, it's like, okay, if you just finish half a year more, just wait, you get at least a degree. And now you're spending close to $200,000 and you get nothing in return. So 3.5.
Do you regret that?
I wish I left school a bit earlier. Yeah, I felt like the whole time in Singapore, if I had the time to try and like focus on myself, I probably would have moved a bit faster in terms of my career. But in hindsight, I think everything happens for a reason. The timeline with COVID, I probably couldn't have started something PT related while COVID is happening. So I think the time was just right.
Yeah. And how did you go from, being a personal trainer to launching your own business? Like you're doing these one-on-one things, online coaching. How did you go from doing that yourself to building a team?
So when I was freelancing, I was freelancing out of a gym called Brick House, which is where you used to train. So my business partner used to be one of the co-founders of Brick House. So he kind of just gave me advice here and there. And then I think he followed me on IG for quite a while. And I kind of looked up to him as like a really good PT. If anything, I think he's the best trainer in Singapore. So I often talk to him about the idea of like dropping out. But there's always the insecurity that PT is not a stable career in Singapore. And then obviously being the guy who's like the best, he's like, oh, you can make money if you're at top of any industry. So he always seeding the idea. Like there's a few PTs around that are good seeding the idea that, hey, maybe you should just try it out. If you feel nothing's going to happen, just go back to school. So he kind of shared the idea of Statera back in the day, just that I didn't know I was part of the plan. I thought he was trying to absorb me as one of the trainers under. So we just went for coffee, one breakfast, and I told him like, hey, I think I'm going to take like a 1 year leave of absence and I'm just going to try and see how this goes. And then he was like, okay, this is the plan. I actually want you to be one of my partners for it. And then he already kind of like planned out what he's going to do for the next year. At that point, knowing that he's going to be like my partner, I just dropped out straight away.
Because you knew you would learn what you needed to learn in order to take things to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like if you are with the right people and you can hustle, there's no way you will fail.
Was that like a gut feeling for you, or did you have to evaluate the risks of it?
I just had something to bite the bullet and just go. Like there was no there's no support at the start. Everyone was just kind of against it. And knowing that you have this guy to fall back on, his name is Calvin, by the way, like knowing that I have him to fall back on just gives me a lot of security to like leave, because I feel like if I screw up, he screws up as well, right? Because we are technically running the same business, and him being one of the best in the industry and the most successful, the odds of me actually screwing up, it's really, really low. So it just gives me a lot of security to just like follow my gut and just go for it.
Yeah. And what do you think made him want to do this with you?
That I have no idea. Like I'll actually think back. I think back then he was like someone who's really good in terms of the practical skills, but I think he lacked the side of marketing, the online presence, because he's one of the guy who just works really hard behind the scenes, and over the years he just kind of built a network of the clients. Our third partner Kevin was kind of really good with talking and sales, so we're thinking. I think his point of view is, how do we tie things up where I have the skill set to mentor trainers, I can get results, Kevin can close the deal, but in terms of like marketing and just like building a presence, having a younger guy in the team would probably help. And at the time, because I was running my Instagram account and, I kind of pivoted from posting about like stretching rehab videos and having the IG blow up to me posting a lot of like results and building like a successful online coaching business. I think because he followed me for a while, he kind of see the value like, hey, this guy could bring something to the table, especially since he had a background in Cairo as well.
Yeah. And how does that business model work? So you start off as a freelance personal trainer.
Yep.
So what they do is you buy sessions from a gym or whatever.
Yep.
And then the gym allows you to bring in clients, you train them. That's how you earn money. And then now you are in launching your own, how would you say, a personal training team, personal training brand. And then you would essentially hire other trainers to come and you would earn commission based on that, or how does that work?
So we wanted to kind of bridge the difference between like a freelance PT and like the big box gyms, because in usually commercial gyms like Fitness First, Pure Fitness, your job is not so much to just be a PT. You have to run the sales, you need to be on the floor, clean the stuff, clean the gym equipment, bring people to tours, try to interact with people, trying to basically get more sales. For us, we find that like in this industry, standards in Singapore are just really low compared to like America, Australia, and me living in Australia, you can like really witness and see the difference between like where Singapore's at versus like where the other countries are at. So we wanted to create an environment where trainers can just focus on being a good PT. And we kind of started, I wouldn't say like a freelance concept, but the gym that we're operating out of is kind of like a rework of the gym role. So we basically just started the team with like as little risk as possible, because we don't have to incur overheads with like rent, like utilities and stuff like that. Because usually for businesses like gyms, the most expensive thing is rent. So by not having to pay like a fixed rent per month, we can allow ourselves to still slowly grow without having the pressure that we have to conform to acting in a certain way just to allow the business to continue running. Because I think that's what most gyms do. Like they don't focus so much on the quality and they just keep hiring, and then it's just like a big factory, right? Like a trainer does 10 sessions a day, and then you hire more trainers, and then you need to hit X amount of sessions per month to cover your rent. If you can't cover rent, in 6 months, it's either the gym is going to go, which we kind of seen quite a lot of it happen in the recent years, or if you basically can't stay true to your values because you have to keep the business going. So for us, we kind of identified that, and we felt like we are in a good position to just grow the business the way we want to grow it. And a good opportunity came up like half a year ago, which is why we started our gym right now.
Mm. Okay, so half a year ago, you found the opportunity to scale, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a bit, but I'm super interested because I think it's a very clever. As a guy I go to the gym. I trained at Brick House, the gym you guys used to be at, and I also trained at the gym that you started, Statera, in Freedom Gym,
Yep.
and I was seeing that and I was confused because I was like, okay, these guys, firstly, you guys look really professional. There were a few of you already training in the gym, your clients, but you had a team, but you weren't hired by the gym.
Yep.
I found that really clever because, like you said, you essentially remove the risk of overhead, having to buy all the equipment, having to market the gym. Instead, you just market your services and then you lease out this space. I think that was really clever. Was that something that you researched, or was that kind of like, oh, there's this gap which we can fill?
When Kelvin kind of like stopped, like when Kelvin used to run his gym, he kind of identified all the shortcomings of running an actual space. And at the same time, Freedom was owned by like a really good friend. And then he wanted to bring all freelancers to like the best gym in like CBD. So we kind of discussed it beforehand, and we kind of worked out like, this is a great opportunity for us. Like there's no risk. Equipment is great. And we know that if we were to start something like that, we probably wouldn't have capital to do it in the first place, being like a PT. We can potentially do it with like a rich investor who could be a client, but we found that a lot of times the business gets diluted and the values kind of like fade away because the investors want the business to be a certain way to make money. And then you have your own values in terms of how you want things to run. And if things don't go to plan, investor pulls out and chooses to sell the business, and then you end up losing everything. So we kind of knew like opening a gym was not for us, and starting our own gym right now wasn't part of the initial plan. The plan was kind of built a platform where we have our own trainers, where we lead like our education and upskill all the trainers. And then we kind of plant the trainers across like different gyms, like different freelance gyms, because there's quite a lot emerging around. Just that like, I think Freedom was really like a really nice place for us to operate out of. So throughout the whole expansion process, we didn't actually move to another gym, and we just pretty much stayed in Freedom the whole time.
And so you took me through the start of the business. How did you scale that? Like, it was just the three of you to start? Like, how fast did you start bringing on new trainers?
I think the planning took us for like 9 months because we pretty much didn't know what to do. Like, there's so many things to do. Like, even things like designing a logo, we didn't know what to do. Accounting, we didn't know what software to use. Like how to even keep track of transactions, paying the trainers, all this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, like the big part of the business in terms of what we believe in is the education and the mentorship. So we had to kind of do up a curriculum in terms of like, okay, trainer comes in, how do we ensure that in 3 months' time, they can kind of follow the Statera system. So when you come into a Freedom gym, you can tell, okay, this trainer is from our group. So there's a lot of things to do at the time, and we kind of didn't have the structure. We just kind of set up like 2 meeting times where we work on something, realize that we need to work on something else, and it just kept going. About 9 months in the planning, we kind of hired our first hire, and then within the first 3 months, we kind of brought on 3 trainers to the team.
So it took you 9 months to start hiring, correct?
Yep.
Wow. And I mean, that seems like a long time, like, wow, 9 months, but it probably felt like very fast, no?
It just feels like a really fun school project. Like, yeah, it just feels like a really fun school project. There was nothing at stake because we kind of acknowledge that we're not making money from the start. You know, it's just more like a passion project. You just want to create a community where trainers kind of have an avenue for them to improve, because 10 years ago, there was no such thing. Like, there isn't like YouTube, like there isn't like courses online, you know, like you don't get educators being flown in Singapore to conduct courses. Everything has to be, okay, if I want to learn a course, I want to learn something new, I fly to Australia for like a weekend to attend a seminar, or you go to Australia, you go to New Zealand or America to do it. There's no such thing in Singapore back then. So for us, we kind of want to make sure that like whatever we acquired in terms of knowledge from the different courses and coaches, to kind of put everything together so that like the newer upcoming trainers can kind of like learn at a more accelerated pace. Something that we didn't get at the start. At the same time, create a work environment that everyone feels happy coming to work.
Yeah. That's something, do you think did you read a book about that? Like, or was that all just from personal values?
More values, yeah. It's just really a vision of thinking about what do we wish that we had when we first started, which we didn't get. And then we just want to provide that to the next, the newer and the upcoming group of people, because the reason why Statera started is we kind of acknowledge that how many people can they help being like a good personal trainer. Like if you're really good, you have 20 clients, and if you're packed, you just raise your prices, and there's only so much people you can help. Like even with my online coaching, I think I had like 40 clients at one point. So I was juggling 40 online clients and 20 in-person clients, but there's only so much people you can help. 3 of us, we know that like we can't make an impact at that scale. And the only way for us to kind of reach out to more people is to have a bigger team.
Yeah. And hiring, I've heard, is very tricky as well, because you've got this thing, you've got 3 of you who you probably know each other decently well, but then you're bringing on someone that you don't really know, or are you bringing on friends? Like, take me through your hiring process. Like, how did you go about that?
We kind of had an agreement that if all 3 of us were to say, if one of us were to say no, then it's a no. It has to be like a fuck yes or a no kind of thing. We initially didn't want to hire friends as much because we find that for us, like, end of the day, it's still a business. And, you know, like you're making money off some people. And whether you hire a friend or you hire someone new, is in terms of like a business, you just add on the 1 to the headcount. We don't want to run the scenario where you kind of ruin a friendship because of money, or if things don't go well and kind of part ways, because that's what happened with our first hire, who was a really good friend and was also my housemate at the point. So when things kind of like ended off, we're still living together. It was a bit tricky. But I think as we started to go through the years, you know, people kind of see our culture, and the most of the people who applied are all friends because they kind of like see our vision and they want to be part of that.
Yeah. And I mean, your first hire didn't go so well. Were any bridges burnt or like?
I think the first 2 months was a bit awkward, but I think we all treated it like as adults, and then we kind of talked it out, and we understood that this is probably like the best decision for all of us. So he still freelances out of freedom, and we're still good friends.
Yeah, and one of your very first businesses, the selling printed T-shirts. You said you had a falling out with one of your partners.
Yep.
Did that ever give you trust issues?
Not really. I feel like we all started with like ambition. The two of them actually moved on to start like an interior design firm, and they're doing like super well. What happened was back then we kind of fell into like a Ponzi scheme, and then one of the partners was really into it, and he believes that that's what's going to bring us like financial security. But at the point, I kind of found out that it is a scam, but I just couldn't talk him out of the scam, and then that's where we kind of like decided that we should just do things our own way. So I think till now, we still talk, we're still friends, but like just not at a level where we're working as partners.
Yeah. And this, now with your other two partners doing this, like has it been smooth sailing ever since you started, or were there times where, you had disagreements and stuff?
I think the three of us has like a really, really strong personality, and we kind of we want things to go our way. So when we first started the first 6 months, I think there's quite a lot of disagreements and everything, but we kind of agreed that like no matter what, we know what our vision is, and out of everyone we know, the three of us share the same thing where we want the same outcome. And we just kind of talked about how can we work through our differences to make sure that whatever we do is best for the business. So we kind of made an agreement that, we'll put on our ego. If someone does something wrong, the two of us shouldn't feel bad to raise it up. So it's always about like open communication. And after working together for like 2.5, 3 years, we kind of know what's our strengths and weaknesses. So we give autonomy for each of us to make the decisions in our own area of like control. And just trust each other for making the best decision for the business.
Yeah. That's actually, I mean, it sounds like it's probably harder said than done, because like when, yeah. And do you think, so if I'm taking the perspective of someone that's, thinking about starting a business, like maybe they have a friend or someone that they know has an idea. Maybe they're thinking like, do you think this is a good idea for them to jump on and join these people? What do you think should be something that, when looking at a possible business partnership, what do you think is the most important thing that someone should be looking at?
I think values is one. Values and vision. Second is like the level of communication and the level of hustle you have planning to get into in terms of the business. Because I find that a lot of times people fall out because end of the day, when they run a business, they think about money. And there's always a comparison of like, why am I putting in more effort than you? So a lot of times people always talk about like, I want to achieve this, but like how much are they willing to grind and hustle? That's a separate thing. I think we kind of acknowledge that entrepreneurship is not for everyone, because everyone talks about having the ability to grind. But people don't understand that you're kind of like leaving the 9 to 5 to start working from 5 to 9. So when there's kind of like an imbalance in terms of effort that you put in, I think that's usually where like business partners kind of like come into the disagreement and fall out.
So what advice would you have to solve that then?
Sorry?
What advice would you have to solve that?
I feel like a lot of times for most people, if your business is something that requires you to really work close together, really make sure that you know the person really well as a person and as a friend, and in terms of like how their working styles are, don't be too quick to just like, okay, I have an idea, just jump straight in, pump money and let's just do it, because you never know how things are going to turn out. Yeah.
And do you think going from, being your own, like being a lone wolf, doing freelancing by yourself, to now building this with two partners, how much more enjoyable is that for you?
It's definitely better, because I feel like we feel like family right now. Like the gym, everyone, it's not so much about like, I'm the boss, you're the employee, listen to me, but it's more like a big community where people just kind of acknowledge us as the leaders. I feel like on my own, I have like the intrinsic motivation to grind and hustle. But I think a big part is I want to build an environment where I look forward to coming to work. And on your own, it's just not the same. It just feels like you set a target, you hit the target. Like it can be like a goal in terms of like money or like in terms of how much clients you have, but it becomes purely a job. For me, it's more like I want to wake up and I look forward to doing this. I look forward to seeing my friends. I want to come to work and I want to create that for everyone.
Yeah. And so you spent how long has Statera been around? Since 2022, right?
Officially registered 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years.
2 years and 4 months. Yeah, we're quite young.
So when was the point that you said that? How many staff members did you have?
We just hired. Peak? So now we're a team of 17.
Wow.
As of September, we're a team of 17.
So when you were in Freedom Gym without a gym, before you opened your own gym?
14.
You had 14 people.
Yeah, 14.
Wow. So you managed to achieve that in 2 years.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really fast.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, I feel like every quarter, everything's just changed. Like whenever you feel like, okay, I'm starting to be comfortable where I'm at, something new just happens and there's never a time for me to like kind of slow down.
Yeah. How much did you have to work?
A lot.
Were you training your own clients as well?
Yeah, so maybe I do an average of like 7 or 8 clients a day. So I do about 40 sessions a week.
And you're building a company at the same time.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think that's also why we kind of say like, sometimes it's not for everyone, which I think in our case, like all 3 guys are like crazy and they really love to work. I was just telling like the trainers where I feel like at any scenario, I can always outwork my friends or the people around me, like around the same age group. But like with Kelvin and Kevin, it's almost impossible. Like last year we had a photo shoot prep. So we still do like 8 clients a day. So we have mentorships meetings. So we start at like 7 and then we end at like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. That's a usual day, like 7 to 9. I'll come into the gym at like 5 a.m. to do my cardio. And then I'll come in back-to-back days where when I'm in, Kelvin is already training. Kevin is already done with cardio showering. And then, like being at the gym at 5 a.m., knowing that you're third to arrive to the gym. It just makes me think like, how can I outwork this guy? It's like, this guy's crazy. And I think this is also why we kind of work really well together.
Because you're a little bit crazy.
Yeah, we just like to push and see what the limit's at.
Yeah, and if you did it by yourself, do you think you could have gotten as far as you did?
Potentially, but I think it comes with a lot of burnout. And I think everyone loves a little competition. So I feel like when you have someone there pushing you, you just generally raise your standards for yourself.
Yeah. Did you ever think it was going to go this way?
To be honest, like, no. Like, this is really way surpassed where I thought it's going to be. Before I entered Cairo, I kind of had the dream of like, okay, I used to do powerlifting. So I looked up to this guy called Jordan Shallows, which is he's the founder of this education group called Prescript. Yeah. So basically back then I was a chiropractor. I was studying to be a chiropractor. I did powerlifting for Australia. And then my goal is like, one day I want to be like Jordan Shallows where, I'm a strong powerlifter. I'm good at PT. I run my own education thing, like, run seminars on the weekend. Education, like seminars has always been like the end point. Till now, like Jordan follows me and we actually got to hit a workout together in November when he comes to Singapore. I think that's like the most surreal thing for me.
That's amazing. And did you ever have like a financial goal?
I used to think I want to retire at 40. But the truth to be told is like for the 3 of us, we kind of haven't taken money from the business yet. Our income comes solely from our PT. So I think the whole 2 years, we have just been building something without taking something back. And I think it allows us to not dilute our values in terms of the business. So it's really just, for me, it's really just a passion project. Like the idea is to grow the team, make it big. So from the business, although money is made, we don't really think about it just because we haven't actually received any like dividend or whatever from the business. But I think to this point, I'm just happy building what I'm building. And I feel like 20 years down the road, I hope to still be doing what I'm doing. So to me, it's like make good enough income to live a comfortable life and then just keep doing this for as long as I can.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing actually how much you were making as a PT before you started your personal training business, and then how much your business has managed to scale to? You don't have to give like specific numbers, but roughly for someone who's interested in maybe doing what you're doing, like what kind of potential does that have?
I think in terms of PT, for like the cream of the crop, you can potentially make like 5 figures as a PT
Per month.
Yeah. So I used to balance like online coaching with my face-to-face, and online was bringing me quite a bit of money. I was making about like 8-9K per month for online. And then on the side, PT as well. Statera, based off revenue, we managed to crack $1 million like in the last 12 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah, revenue, not profit, but
yeah. But I mean, you've done it for what, 2 years?
Yeah.
And you've hit 7 figures already.
Yep.
Was that projected?
No, like to be honest, same thing. Like I didn't expect us to go so quick. But I think revenue aside, like how we started, basically because our overheads are so low, profit margins will not be as high as other gyms, because the whole idea is because our overheads were low, we have the ability to pay people more. And we feel like we don't want the business to be a thing where it's all about just making money, where, okay, this trainer comes in, you take a 20% cut and company makes 80%, and then we basically get rich off people working a lot. The idea is, how do we create an environment where everyone makes good money, and we kind of create this career for them where they get to do what they love, they are financially stable, and they can provide for their family. So we believe in giving them like a good portion of the money that they make. So because of that, we don't make as much as any other big box gym, but I think it's more fulfilling for us that way.
Yeah. Was that something that the three of you had a conversation about? Did you sit down and was that a discussion? Were there back and forths, or was that just something like, this is what we all believe in, let's just go forward with it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I believe in from day one.
And yeah, you said money really hasn't really been a driver for you necessarily, because like, in a way, you were making really good money at a young age. You were making what, 5 figures per month, doing your own thing. And then there's an opportunity to start your own business. You're going to be working twice as hard and maybe earning the same or even less because you have to put money in this business. Yep. I think, what do you say to people who are maybe very driven by money and are maybe thinking more short term, being like, okay, I want to get in and make as much money as I can?
Sorry, come again?
So yeah, what would you say to someone who's very money focused?
I think to a certain point, money still matters. Like I wouldn't say that I'm making less than when I first started. I'm making probably a bit more. But I find like it depends on what industry you're in. If you are in for the passion, and understand in some industries just wouldn't make as much money as others. Like if you're in finance, if you do trading, you're definitely going to be able to scale compared to someone who works in a business where money is made by physical hours. I think there's no like fixed advice for everyone. Like if you're money driven and it helps you work hard and create like the business that you want, I think go for it. But I think at the end of the day, it just depends on what your values are, and just stick to your values the whole way. Yeah.
And how long is your vision for this? Like, are you thinking 10-year, 5-year?
There's this part of the struggle for me where when I used to live in Australia, that's kind of like where I want to settle down. So I think a lot of times when I talk to my clients, they always talk about like, Terence, you sound like whatever you're planning is just about like, how can I make enough money so I can move back, live by the beach and be a barista, like just get by. At this point, I'm not sure, because I feel like you can easily get to that lifestyle where in Australia, you don't have to make a lot of money. You just have a good lifestyle. You go home to your family early. I feel like based on what I built right now, it's kind of like my baby, and I don't really want to leave this. So for now, the goal is to push this for as far as I can.
Yeah, that's a good mindset. Because I think sometimes if you think too long term, it kind of takes away from what you're doing now. Yeah.
I think a big part of like every year I kind of like set a target for myself. And I think this year it's more of like understanding that you're not working for like the end goal. Like it's very important to just enjoy the process and be part of it, because everything moves so quick. You never know what's going to happen next. So while you're in it, you try to be happy and feel fulfilled doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So yeah, now you have a gym.
Yep.
It's been 2.5 years since you started your personal training company. And you opened in July, am I correct?
Yeah, we did our launch in July.
Wow, so it's only been a month.
2 months.
It's fresh.
Month, yeah.
How's that been?
It's amazing, man. Like, you know, as a child, you always just dream of having your own gym, coming in when the gym is open, you know, like before the gym is even open, having your own rules. I think the very young me would just be really glad that I'm owning my own space, so I can do whatever I want. I can film whatever videos I want, train topless, do whatever. Yeah, but I'm still trying to like soak into the whole feeling because there's so many things going on with like transitions of going from freelance gym to this gym. So this 2 months, my goal was really to just like settle down internally and just enjoy what's happening.
How long did it take you to go from ideation to actually opening
The
the
gym,
gym?
2 months.
Wow.
So I was in Japan in April. I was in Japan in April for a holiday, and at the point I was so burnt out. So I was telling my fiance, like, okay, my goal is to slow down, do like 5 trips a year, and just kind of enjoy like what's happening. And then my partners just received a call saying that there's this gym which is actually moving out of the space, and they're looking for someone to take over. None of us were like interested to take over because we know like, okay, we probably can't afford it. But you know, like I was just curious in terms of numbers. So I was like, okay, maybe just go check it out. You know, maybe, you know, it could be something within our plan 3 years from now. Because this particular unit was the one that we were looking to maybe take over in 3 years if the team gets too big. And then both of them win. And then, you know, it's just a good deal to pass. So the rest of my Japan trip was basically just calling accountants, doing numbers, talking to lawyers and people. And then within a week after I came back, we kind of signed the papers, and then everything just started from there.
Was there no hesitation?
I think all three of us had hesitation to start a gym right from the get-go. But with this thing happening, like it was just a weird thing that all three of us was like, okay, my gut tells me to go. I think we should. And then, you know, the three of us basically had the same exact thought. So we just like, okay, let's just take the plunge. That's what we have always been doing, and it's been working out well for us. So yeah, we just did. Wow. Obviously, doing the cash flow statements and understanding that we will break even operationally from day one. Because most gyms usually lose money the first year trying to get members, trying to get clients, but we already had quite a big crew of personal trainers, and the customer base was really like quite loyal and big. So we know that when we move in from day one, we would start making money. It's just a matter of how long does it take for us to break even.
And did you have to buy all new equipment, or was there some equipment left?
We inherited quite a bit of stuff because generally with PT gyms in Singapore, the equipment is quite good compared to like conventional gyms. But obviously there are some pieces of equipment that we want. So we sell some, we bought new ones, and we just basically like just modified whatever we had.
Yeah. And so I think for people who don't know, so there's like conventional gym, which is like, you know, Pure Fitness, Virgin Active, and Fitness First. And then PT Gym is essentially like a boutique, smaller, yep, one-on-one. It's mainly just one company that runs it. It's more like personalized, right?
Yep.
So you have opened a PT Gym. So how big is this space?
Our space is about 3,500 square feet. So it's not very big, but I would say it's like a perfect size for a PT Gym. Because if it's too small, you know, it feels like you're just paying for like a barbell and dumbbells. There's no special equipment out of it. But if it's too big, I feel like the energy will kind of be dampened, because I feel like PT gyms, it's all about working hard and getting results. If the space is too big and, you know, like everyone's just scattered, you don't feel the energy of the gym. So with this size and the shape of the gym and everything, we thought it was perfect for like a PT gym.
Yeah. And so you've built a team of 14 staff, including the three of you?
Excluding the three of us.
Excluding three of, so in total 17.
Yep.
And now you just had a few new hires, or one new hire?
17 total after the hires.
Okay, so 17 total. You built that team. How many clients do you have in total?
You can probably forecast about like 20 each.
20
about
each.
300,
Wow.
400 clients.
So almost 400 clients. How did you acquire so many clients? Well, what have you learned about bringing on board people to your business?
I think number one thing for us is results. Like, I think the whole idea of starting this whole team in the first place is we know that the standards in Singapore is not as high as the other countries. And the goal is to think about raising the standards. So I think the fundamental thing that we always work on is improving the skill set of the trainers, because we feel like being the people business is all about like referrals. Like referrals will probably be like a having like a referral as lead will probably be better than a cold lead on Instagram. So when, you train your client, they lose like 20 kg and they go to like a business gathering and everyone's like, hey, what happened to you? You look really good. And then they start sharing. And then that the person, the moment they step through the door, they're already ready to sign up because they know what they're getting into. Compared to like online marketing, obviously those are very good avenues for you to get business as well. But we still find that getting results and actually having like a walking testimonial around, that's the best for us.
Yeah. And what would you say in terms of like ROI from referrals versus like paid advertising?
I think you still get like a good ROI in terms of like paid ads, just that you don't know who are the type of clients that step through the door. We want to kind of build like a community where everyone comes in, is ready to grind and push, like ready to smash the transformation. With online, I feel like a lot of times people just don't know what the expectations are in terms of coming in because they don't know what's happening. With referrals, they probably talk to our clients and they know what they're getting into. So I feel like the quality of the leads from a result standpoint is just a lot higher when they come from referrals.
Yeah. And how important is social media when it comes to marketing and acquiring clients?
I think in modern day, like social media is huge. Like social media is just like a platform where you can reach unlimited people and there's no potential in terms of like where it is. In terms of like a PT scene in Singapore, I think there is still some form of limitations because PT is generally more of like expensive service. A lot of people who are your target market might not be on social media because a lot of them are like working professionals in like late 30s, 40s. But I still think that it's a good place in terms of like getting awareness for your brand.
Yeah. And do you think it's imperative for businesses to have social media?
At this point, I feel like you'll be losing out if you don't have social media in like modern day. Like just even with your podcast, like How I Found You, it's all via social media. So it's huge. Like you never know who you reach. Obviously the reach might not be as relevant as what you want, but there's no such thing as too much leads.
Yeah. And so when you told me back when you were starting out, you had social media, you were like posting regularly, posting educational content,
Yep.
And then you stopped doing that. How long ago was it when you stopped?
I started in 2019. I think at the point I went up to like 23,000 followers. Yeah. And I went to Cairo school. Everything's so hectic. I just couldn't keep up.
And was there no motivation to get back and start posting content for growth?
At one point, I think the reason why I stopped as well is because I feel like I was chasing likes and followers rather than like posting what I want. After a while, you realize that this kind of content gets me the most reach and the most engagement, and this kind of content doesn't. But at the same time, it's like, what do I truly want to post? Like you kind of get caught up in a cycle that you start posting, chasing engagement and like likes and views. And it's just kind of taken me away from like, I started to not like what I was doing because I felt like business was stable for me at that point. Like I had 40 clients, everyone were referrals. My clients all know each other. It was a really good community. I just didn't find that there was a reason for me to push my growth on social media anymore. At this point, I would want to get back into it again, but I feel like just the algorithms and everything is just a bit off. Just balancing my priorities in terms of like focusing on the business versus social media growth for myself. I choose to focus on the business.
Yeah. And do you think like when it comes to business, if you were to start posting again, if you from like a business point of view, would you still go for the likes and views, or would you go for more like what you find valuable?
I think I will stick to what I find valuable to be what I post, because I think at the end of the day, you are trying to attract a certain group of market that you're trying to get. And with Statera, we are all about like providing value. It's not so much just like a PT service where you count 1 to 12, push the clients. We focus a lot on education. We follow up a lot of the clients outside the gym just by text and WhatsApp every day. So a big part of what we do is like education and empowering clients so that one day when they move on from PT, they know what to do. Like when they get the after photo, the after doesn't revert back to before. And that's like the core value in terms of like our PT service.
Yeah.
So ideally want to attract that kind of clients to come in. So for me, not so much about chasing likes anymore.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I think social media, depending on what type of business you're doing, I think if you were selling t-shirts, maybe social media
would be huge,
really, but if you're selling like a service-based business, at the end of the day, like you said, referrals are probably the most important thing.
Yep.
And is that something that you just let happen naturally, or are you, recording are you taking photos of results? Are you posting it online? Do you have it on your website? Or are you kind of just like, if you want to recommend us, we're not going to be pushy about it?
I think two sides of things. One is you still want to showcase the results, because on top of just marketing, I feel like sometimes it's just recognition of the client's hard work. They work so hard. When they finish the before and after, I feel like it's really nice if the company posts about it online and your friends see it, and then you get compliments from your friends. I think that's a big part of motivation that keeps you going at the start. The second part is we actively think about building a community within the people who come to us. So, it's not so much like I come to training and I'm just tagged to the trainer. Everyone talks to everyone. After a while, you realize that, okay, I start making friends with the same clients. We try to organize events to get people to get together. So you kind of get the community like how you're doing in group class, which is why group classes are doing so good. But you get like the personalization in terms of like your plan and your training and everything else.
Yeah. So it's more like not a holistic approach, but more organic in a way. But you still are celebrating, what they've achieved and what they've done, instead of like making it about, okay, we're going to just use this to get more clients.
Yep.
Yeah. And do you think clients actually sense that when people, look to your company, if they want to join or not?
I would think so, because end of the day, I think like the big part of our like client leads come from referrals, which means that like clients are actually enjoying what they're getting out of us. So I think that kind of reinforces that we are doing the right thing, and it is like something to tell us that we should continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And what are the plans for the future? Do you think, it's super fresh right now. You just opened a gym. Are there plans to hire more trainers, get more clients, or are you just focusing on like the present, trying to make everything as best as you can?
I think from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense to. There's a certain limit in terms of how much we can scale before this space just can contain all of us. And obviously, I think starting a second unit would not make sense, because like renovation, you pretty much restart the gym again. The three of us, we are very into education and upskilling, and we have been having a large percentage of our clients to be actually personal trainers. So we have trainers from other teams, freelance trainers who actually pay us to receive some form of mentorship. So I think for us, the next step is actually moving towards like seminars, mentorships, and more like education side of things, rather than just like PT to clients.
Yeah, so more like the prescript type of model.
We hope to move in that direction. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super interesting. I think the online education type of business model as well is can be very, firstly, impactful, but also can make a lot of, scalable, because essentially you just record a video or whatever, a course.
Yep.
And if you put that online, there's as many people as they want, they can buy it, right? So is that something that you're also thinking about, like making maybe training online? Because you were also saying like at the beginning of your journey, you made a lot of money from the online side of things.
Yep.
Is that something you're thinking about for the business as well?
It could be, but I think for now it's not within our radar. Yeah, just because I think we want to really like make our mark as like the best PT gym in Singapore. Like there are a few successful PT brands in Singapore, but none of them actually are homegrown. So our goal is to try and be the best. And when that happens, we'll think about what's next. Yeah, but we don't want to be in a scenario that we try to chase too many things at the same time, because we find that that's what usually causes the business to not do well.
Yeah. What does your typical day in the life right now look like?
I wake up at 5. I usually do a run at like 6 or 7 a.m. I start my first client at 8. And then depending on my client on my day, so I kind of like blocked out 2 days where it's a lot heavy on meetings, mentorships, and things like that. I typically work till like 8 or 9 p.m. And then you spend the last 2 hours a day on education. So I sign up for like mentorships, mainly in the US. So you have calls and everything at night. Yeah. So it's pretty hectic. Like I do about like 8 PT sessions a day, and on top of that, maybe like 2 mentoring hours. But I still block out like my 2 to 4 p.m. for training. So Statera has like this kind of like rule where you don't take on clients from 2 to 4, so everyone trains together.
That's really cool. That's probably a great way to build company culture in a way. Yeah. And do you have any like personal goals at the moment? Are you training for anything?
The team is thinking to do Hyrox next year. I don't know if I want to suffer, but I'm up for the challenge. I think I'm generally just quite competitive. So if I decide to go for it, I'll go like full on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trend, no? Right now.
Yeah. I think the last 2 years I've just been really focused on like building the team and the business, that like my own training has kind of been on the backseat. So I think the whole of 2024, the initial focus was like to really shift the focus back to myself, make sure that I eat well, I block out time to train, do everything. But obviously now it's kind of like a push and pull and fighting a balance of like business versus taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, do you think you'd ever not do in-person PT anymore, like, and just focus more on the business side, or maybe cut it down? Like, do you think?
I think the long term is to grow a business, you kind of have to work on the business and not in the business. In order to scale, and with our current schedule, we kind of acknowledge that there's no way that you can continue working this amount of hours while growing the team to be like really big. I think in the long run, we eventually have to scale down on clients. So I haven't been taking on new clients for like a year now. It's more of like if my client choose to relocate and decide to move on, I'll just block out the time to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find that clients actually stick with you for a long time?
Yeah. So my dropout rate has been pretty low. So the last 3.5 years, all my clients has pretty much been with me alongside with like price increases or things like that. So most of my clients are just really long-term clients. So I just find like with the relationship you've kind of built with them, it's not so much about like a paying client at PT anymore, but also like friends. So I wouldn't necessarily say I would drop my clients just for the sake of growing the business, but eventually when they decide that, hey, like I want to move on, I would just do my own thing and focus more time on the business.
Yeah. But do you think there will be a breaking point for you where like, wow, like I really have this opportunity to take things to the next level, but if only I had more time? Do you think it'll ever get to that point?
I think it's possible. And then, I'm kind of like prepping myself mentally that will happen. I feel like fundamentally how things started is I always want to be a PT. So the thing I look forward to the most is, okay, I still get satisfaction from like mentoring, running a business. And I think like running a business is fun because it just breaks away from the monotony of like training clients. But I really enjoy training clients. Like if a client goes to a physio, goes to other coaches and have pain they can't fix and they come to me and then they get pain-free, it's a different kind of satisfaction because I know that I positively made an impact to someone's life. So I think to some form of extent, I will continue coaching throughout the whole time, but maybe just a matter of how much.
Yeah. And you overall seem like a super positive guy. Like it sounds like it's been super fun and exciting, but was there, was there like the lowest point at some part of your journey so far?
I think what started everything was like the lowest point. So like during the army, I had a relationship for like 8 years and then, relationship ended really bad. So I was like severely depressed, I was suicidal, and then I pretty much didn't serve the army for 1 full year because of the state I'm at. So I think what happened was working on myself has always been an excuse for me to not do good for my relationship back then. And then when everything happened, I just felt like, okay, this is the reason as to why the relationship ended. And for me, like, I really, really want to work on myself and, show that like, it wasn't just like excuses. So the moment the breakup happened, like it was just full on like, you heard of like the breakup makes bodybuilders kind of statement, but for me, it's more like career and self-growth. Like I wanted to prove to people that I could be someone and, I could provide value. And I think that's how everything started from there.
Yeah. And what do you think was the catalyst for that? Like, I think when you're in that dark time, you can be tunnel vision as well. Like, yep. Was there someone that helped you out of it? Was there a video that motivated you? Like, how did you get out of that?
I think the turning point was when, I attempted to kill myself, like commit suicide, and then having my parents like sit by my bed crying. Like I was never close to my dad growing up. So, like it was always kind of like a very traditional Asian family where your dad just doesn't talk to you and just really strict. And I never really got along with my dad. And then through that incident, I saw him breaking down by the side of the bed, crying and begging me to like not do what I was doing. And it kind of like just turn on a switch that, I need to stop doing this because whatever I'm doing, it isn't just harming myself, but more hurting people around me. So that's where everything started. Obviously, with being in Singapore and holding a lot of like bad memories at the time, moving to Australia was like a really good move because I pretty much started fresh, right? Like people don't know who I am. I enter a new country as a fresh sheet of paper, and it's free for me to write, like create whatever narrative I have for myself. So it's just like a brand new restart, no memories, nothing. I'm a new person. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you could go back in time and talk to yourself, or like give one piece of advice to yourself at that your lowest point, what do you think you would say to Terence?
Understand that all the dark times will eventually pass. They're just challenges, and they make you the person you will be today. I find like most people that I know that are really successful, who do really well, always been through some form of shit. Like no one has a smooth sailing life, and the ones that just cruise and get to the top, I don't respect them as much as someone that I know that like dug themselves up from the bottom. So yeah, I would just tell myself, go on, continue working hard, believe in yourself.
Yeah. What do you think was your proudest moment?
Honestly, I wouldn't say. Yeah, I think I'm proud for myself for committing to the whole process, staying true to my values. I wouldn't say that like it. The proudest moment is probably when we sealed the deal for the gym. Like, I just broke down, I just cried, and like thinking like, oh, I feel like I made it because this was a dream that I had since I was like 16. Never thought it would happen, and then when it happened so quick. So I think going from the idea of like you're gonna start a business without a gym to actually acquiring the gym and having this thing that's mine, I would say that's probably the proudest moment.
Yeah. Do you think, looking at your journey so far, do you think you could have changed, like, would you have changed anything about it?
I think everything happens for a reason, and where I'm at today is because of all the things that happened. So probably no. Things could have potentially scaled faster if we'd done things a certain way, but I feel like sometimes this is the pace that things are meant to happen, and if things happen faster or you progress even faster, then like the success or the problems do not feel the same, because it's very easy for you to just get ahead of yourself and start to not celebrate the small wins. Yeah. So I think like everything happens at a good rate, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. And if future Terence was looking back at this video right now, 10 years from now, let's say, what would you say to them?
Work a bit less, spend a bit more time with family. I feel like everything from a personal end is like great, like it's really what I wish it could have been. But I think a big part for me is really finding a balance of not neglecting the people around me while chasing my goals. But for me, I keep my circle small, like good friends, my fiance, family. And I just want to make sure that in the whole process, I don't neglect them as part of the process of me trying to chase my dreams.
Yeah. Do you think family is the number one thing for you?
Yeah, I'll think so. I think I'm more of like a family guy. Big part of starting a business as well to me is like, how can I provide for my family? Because at the end of the day, I feel like I make money so that my family can live a comfortable life. Not so much about like material goods or telling people that you made it in life. At the start, it could be because I went from like a bottom and then started climbing up. There's times where you start to get ahead of yourself, thinking like, oh, I achieved this at this age, and it's always like a timeline thing where I'm 27, I achieved this. But I think at this point, I've grown to be a bit more mature, that I understand why I'm working hard. And it's not so much about telling people what I achieved. Yeah, so I think right now I try to live my life a bit more private than before. Like last time, if we go on a holiday, my whole IG story will be like, here I am, blah, blah, blah. Like now I'm a bit different, where if I choose to travel, I just, people don't have to know that I've went, I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it because I want to do it. And, I do it because I want to spend time with my family.
Yeah. Now I can definitely heavily relate to that. I think it's just part of getting older. You realize like what really matters. And do you want kids someday?
2 years ago, I swore I'd never have kids, but seeing my fiance's, my like sister and brother-in-law having a kid, yeah, I'm kind of getting the baby fever right now.
Baby fever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also see all the baby videos on Instagram and stuff. It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I see myself having kids and building a family, but probably not within the next 3 years. Like, I really hope like the business side will settle down so that I can kind of be the dad that I want to be.
But you're still super young. I mean,
Yeah.
27 going on 28. It's like you've done what probably a lot of people take a long time to do.
Yep.
And on that note, if you had one message for the world, like let's say everyone in the world's watching this right now, what would you say to the world? What would your one message be?
I think if you have a passion, hold true to it and follow through. I feel like it's a privilege to be able to do what you want. Money is important, but I feel like end of the day, you need to find purpose in your life. Yeah. So if you have a passion and you're good at it, stay true to it and just follow through.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Terence.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sweet.